My name is Michael Forbes. I grew up in Canada. I was born in Orillia, home of Gordon Lightfoot, a famous Canadian folk singer. I moved to a little tiny place called Guthrie through grades 1 through 8. But at the end of grade 8, I moved into town and had a little rock and roll band. And I was set to go into grade 9 playing drums, and I heard the sax of Junior Walker and the All-Stars playing "What Does It Take to Win Your Love?" And I had to play that instrument. So all through high school, I played saxophone in the concert band and the jazz band. And we also had a rock and roll band, played some sax in there and some guitar. And then I should have taken music in university, but I didn't. So at the end of the first year, I ended up taking up flute. I went to visit a friend. He had a flute sitting there. We were listening to Jethro Tull. I picked up the flute and started playing. I got a sound. The fingering was like the saxophone, and I was off to the races with the flute. So I learned like the first 4 or 5 Jethro Tull albums of flute parts, and learned all the vocal parts and put a band together. I moved to LA about 1980 and was doing a lot of Jethro Tull stuff. And then around 1994, 95, we did Beach Talk with the B.J. Connie Productions down there in King Harbor, and Jethro Tull tribute 3 years in a row there. And we played at the House of Blues, Pershing Square, and various other places, private parties, other clubs. It's fun to do a Jethro Tull tribute. My brother had a big influence because he said that I needed to sing around the campfire because he couldn't sing. And then he recommended that I learn the guitar so I could back up the vocals, and that seemed like a good idea. That's basically how I started. My mother was always singing. I liked to sing. My brothers couldn't sing, so they decided I needed to do the singing. Yeah, I play saxophone, flute, guitar, keyboards, and sing. Sax and flute are my main instruments. I sing a lot. With solo acts, I play every Sunday down at the Mermaid, and that's a wild party. I'm the only singer. I also play acoustic guitar, a lot of rhythm, acoustic, and some leads, some electric lead guitar and rhythm guitar. And that works out great for the duo, so I play a lot of guitar all night long and then pick up the sax or flute and do a little solo and then go back to rhythm guitar. So the 2 guys can make it happen. I never tried the drums, never really got the 4 things going on at one time. Tried a little bass. Bass would be a good thing to play to make some money because everybody wants a bass player. I played keyboards. All through high school I was taking royal exams from the Royal Conservatory of Music that was in Toronto. And that was how you passed your grades and you got up to there was grade 4, grade 6, and grade 8, and grade 10, and then the teacher's degree. With grade 6, you had to learn grade 4 piano, so I had to take up piano. With grade 10 sax, you had to have grade 8 piano. So I did a lot of piano playing rudiments and exams and stuff like that. So I played piano in my rock and roll band as well, and some of the keyboards on Dreamin', that's me. I've been a musician since 14, starting in high school at the age of 16. We played every Saturday night somewhere. Actually, in grade 8, I played at the high school prom with a trio. We were wearing bell-bottom jeans. Well, my biggest musical influence growing up on the flute would be Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson. Just the fact that rock and roll could have flute and vocals and still be rock and roll was a great thing for me because I love the woodwinds. And at that time it was the Beatles were on top and there was no sax or flute, barely anything at all. Then Jethro Tull came along. We could see that flute could be a dominant part of a rock and roll band. So even though saxophone may seem like more of a rock and roll instrument with the Stones and all the bands that have had sax and more saxophone solos. The only band that ever really had rock and roll flute and vocals like that was Jethro Tull. Now bands like the Rolling Stones, they have great rock and roll sax solos played by Bobby Keys, definitely one of my heroes. Also on sax, I like Gato Barbieri on the jazz side. I put those two guys together, and that's my sound, pretty much. I love to listen to rock and roll and jazz. Of course, the jazz would have to have saxophone and flute in it. No, no vibes. I'm not into the xylophone or any of that stuff, but I like woodwinds, trumpet. Well, I love playing Jethro Tull, Rolling Stones, stuff that's really good rock and music. Some stuff that doesn't even have sax or flute. I love to sing Kryptonite or the Middle, songs that are, like maybe 10 years old at the most, but good rockers. I'm playing a lot of flute on the Cross-Eyed Mary. It's all flute. And there's a flute solo on Dreamin' and also a soprano saxophone solo. The soprano saxophone is a straight sax, and it's got a very unique sound. Dreamin' is a great song. I was living over in London, England at the time, and I had a friend that played keyboards, and we would get together and jam, and we put a band together with drums and bass and guitar, and we had a chance to record once in the BBC studios for free. So the keyboard player wrote this chord sequence out. We all jammed around it. We left blank spots for vocals, and we all did solos. And this was back in the days before computers cut and paste. And we decided to cut out some parts and rearrange some parts. We actually took the tape out of the cassette and snipped it with a pair of scissors and taped it back and made the arrangement of that song from my solos of my flute and my soprano. And then it was my responsibility to write the words and lyrics, which just I procrastinated on that. And one day, my friend Ken Ray came over to the house and said, "Okay, I'm not leaving until you get this done." So I sat down and I wrote the words and came up with a melody, and it's stuck ever since. It's had a major influence. Women love that song. It's a romantic song, and my girlfriend Jill used to listen to that song, and she works next door to the club that I work at the Bullpen, and she would hear that through the wall, and she fell in love with the song and came over to see who was playing it, and there I was. Yeah, the rest is history. So this one's for Jill. Well, Cross-Eyed Mary is an incredible song. It's got the most amazing sequence of chords for the intro. It's like you're walking up this big hill in a march, and then you get to the top with the trill, and then you're looking over this whole valley of stuff. It's very exciting. I get chills just every time I hear that intro. It's a great thing. It's got a great flute solo in the middle, and the little ditty at the end. It's got a guitar solo. It's got some great strings, for the keyboards. And the words, I actually had a chance to talk to Ian Anderson once. I got backstage and I asked him, what is a Letchen Gray? And the Letchen Gray, because that's what Cross-Eyed Mary is hanging out with, the Letchen Gray. She'd rather make it with a Letchen Gray. And that is the class of businessmen in England that wear a gray suit and hire women like Cross-Eyed Mary. I love to play music. It's the best thing in the world to record and play, especially recording. When you go and record, you got to listen to things and really scrutinize. The recording is great. A live recording is good, but in the studio, you're really paying attention to what you do, and you really got control over what comes out in the long run. It's a beautiful thing.